Now we'll talk about transport of sugar. Transport of sugar works totally differently than transport of water. Transport of water is done through xylem, and we know transport of sugar is done using phloem. The difference between xylem and phloem is huge also. The type of cells that are present in xylem and phloem are different. Xylem works individually, independently, but phloem requires multiple type of cells, right? Sieve tube members, companion cells. There are multiple cells need to work together in order to load the phloem and also to unload the phloem. Because there is a fundamental difference between water transport, and food transport. Because water is a solvent, right? And food is acting like a solute here, right? That's why it's always important to maintain the water potential. So so the way the solvent and solute maintain water potential will be different. Because food also, in case of food, if let's say this is a cell and this cell already have enough amount of food, okay? Still, if we produce the food, we need to transfer it inside the cell against their concentration gradient. We need to do that because we need to store it for future as well. So storage is also another thing that we need to look for food, but not for water. For water, this water is also present in sometimes in aqueous and other places in the cell itself, and there's always continuous interaction. But in case of food and food synthesis, it's linked with the photosynthesis, and then the food will be transferred. So it works in a bulk, in a process of bulk. So we'll see how exactly sugar translocation works. So here I'll show you first the steps, then I'll show you the picture. First step is the sugars made in the leaf mesophyll cells, right? And this place where the sugar is prepared and made is known as the source, okay? And the location, rest of the places of the plant cell where it will reach, known as the sink. So again, source to sink transfer. So this sugar diffuse to phloem cells, primarily to the companion cells in the vascular bundle. Okay. The second step, so it loads into the companion cell. The first step is sugar is produced, diffused into the companion cell. Second step, the companion cell load the dissolved sugar into the phloem sieve tube member using energy. So first is transferred to the companion cell, then companion cell loads it to the phloem sieve tube member of the phloem unit utilizing energy. This is energy utilizing step. Third step, water moves into the cell from high sugar concentration. So from where the water comes in? From xylem. The water is present in xylem. So basically, if you look at plants, there are two places we can see. Let's say this is xylem and let's imagine this is phloem, okay? And what's happening here is that the water is flowing through xylem on the top from the bottom, and the food that is being produced is on the top, and food needs to be transported to the bottom and rest of the part. So once the food concentration is more, so that means solute concentration is more, right? So as per the rule of osmosis, what do we know? That the water can move from xylem into the phloem, and then the water will dissolve the sugar and will bring to the rest of the place of the body or sink. Got it? So the movement of sugar depends on the water flow from xylem as well. So we need to make sure that here at this given point, the water potential here should be higher than here, right? Then only it can be loaded. And that's how they are created. So osmotic water flow generates a high hydraulic pressure that moves dissolved sugar through the phloem to the rest of the plant known as sink. So basically this causes a hydraulic pressure and dissolves the sugar and transport it to the different locations of the plant known as the sink, to the sink. Here the process is represented again. STM, short form, full form is sieve tube member, remember. So again same thing, here the sugar is being produced. This is the source cell, remember. Sugar is produced here. These red droplets are the sugar molecules. They are transferred to the companion cell. Companion cell has much water content here because companion cell know that the sugar is going to be produced and to be loaded here temporarily. So they have much higher water content. And then the sugar is transferred to the sieve tube member. So once it's transferred to the sieve tube member, here you can see the water potential is minus 1.1 megapascal. So here sugar molecules automatically get a go ahead because the gravitational force will take it. But it needs to be dissolved somewhere, right? Who will dissolve? Water. Water comes in from xylem where the water potential is minus 0.8 megapascal. And here the water potential was minus 1.1 megapascal, right? So have more water potential in the xylem, less into the phloem. So the water flows from xylem to phloem and dissolves the sugar and brings it to the sink, to the rest of the place. So that is known as a pressure driven bulk flow of water from source to sink. So transpiration indirectly is helping to transport sugar through the plant cells, right? Transpiration indirectly is helping because without transpiration, there is no movement of water. Without no movement of water, this water potential balance cannot be created. Without this water potential balance, sugar translocation can be inhibited. So once it's transferred to the sink, you can see water potential is further minus 0.4 megapascal here. And at this moment, the molecules are transferred and stored into the cells where we need to store them. Now, this storage process may require excess energy because plant leaves also need food, also need the sugar that they produce. If the leaf needs the sugar, in that case, it's already there present, they store it, they utilize the energy. And if it needs to be transferred to some storage place, some plants store it to the root, right? So if they want to store it to the root or stem any other place, in that case, there are storage cells. The storage cells are already filled with sugar. So now we are introducing more sugar. So sugar is moving from low to very high concentration. So when the movement is against the concentration, they require excess energy to do that. So how and what happens here? So the same thing represented, I already told you that. Here you can see the source, sugar is loaded, water transferred, dissolved and transferred it to the sink. So physiological process of loading sucrose into the phloem. And remember in loading, we have what kind of cell? Companion cell, sieve tube member. Okay. And unloading, now how unloading is done? Let me show you the unloading process. But in loading process, remember the movement of sugar in many cells requires this co-transporter. That is sucrose proton co-transporter. So primarily they use a proton pump to pump proton out for different reasons. In plant cells, they pump proton out. So where high concentration of proton is there outside, then they utilize a co-transporter, proton and sucrose. So proton sucrose both binds to the co-transporter. They bring both of them inside the cell. So here you see the transport. One kind of transport is passive transport. So the sugar can be transferred or the phloem can be unloaded with a passive transport or the phloem can be unloaded with an active transport. So here the passive transport, what happens? Unloading from growing leaves of sugar beets. This is sieve tube member, sucrose is there, transferred to the companion cell and from companion cell is moving to the leaf cell again. And earlier when we saw unloading, loading, it was leaf to companion, companion to sieve tube. But for unloading, sieve tube to companion, companion to leaves. And they are moving again this gradient because when there is no synthesis of sugar in leaf anymore, so leaf is now deprived of sugar. So the concentration is highest in sieve tube member, from there little low in companion, lowest in leaf. So that's how they are moving. Okay. And in this case, these movements can be co-transporter based. In that case, it's a active transport. If it's co-transporter utilizing proton sucrose co-transporter, ATP can be utilized. Okay. And normal sucrose transport can also be done through the channels. Secondary active transport because it's not a direct ATP utilization. First, ATP can be utilized for the proton pump, right? So proton pump is used for many purposes, not only for transporting sucrose. So once proton pump is active, proton gradient is created, then utilize the proton gradient to bring the sugar inside. So secondary active transport. An active transport of sucrose into the tonoplast. So what happened again? Sieve tube member to companion cell and from companion cell into the root cell where the tonoplast is present. Okay. Then there is sucrose transporters, which is direct ATPase pumps can also be found in the tonoplasts. So sucrose transporters, which are ATPase pumps, that means they require ATP. Okay, so ATP provides the phosphate, and as a result of which these pumps operate and can bring sucrose from low to high, concentration. Okay, and that's how the transport is done. So if we are transporting sugar to a specialized sugar storage cell into the tonoplast, then you use direct active transport, primary active transport. In other cases, we use secondary active transport utilizing co-transporters, or without the co-transporter, if the concentration of sugar is moving from high to low, then there is a passive transport. Okay, so sugar unloading or phloem unloading can be passive transport based as well as can be active transport based, both the primary active as well as secondary active transport.